videos, but you actually have to get down and talk to the consumers in person, in the
Mhm.
store, and really have to look at it. That's the magic formula to everything.
You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for the Live Local Marketing Podcast today with Dr. Christine. How are we doing today?
Oh, just fantastic. Billy, this is going to be an amazing one. Audience, you
It's
better
good.
tune in for this one.
This is going to be a great one. All right, we'll do a little bit of background on you and then just get right into the questions and start getting all the good thoughts out of your head. So you are a TEDx speaker, a leadership strategist, professor, and a host of a top 1% ranked podcast. That is such an impressive start. That's one of the strongest opening sentences I've ever read on this show.
Good. I like that.
So
It's like
Dr.
a
Help.
German car. It just came out strong.
It came right. That's great. We help professionals navigate change with clarity, confidence, momentum through small, practical steps that she calls Petite, which I'm sure we're going to get to today as well. Ma'am, are you ready for the questions?
Awesome. Ready? Yes.
Let's do it. Talk to us about your first win as an entrepreneur.
Really starting my company helped me figure out exactly who I am and what my superpower is. And I think it's a little bit like if you're a child sitting in a sandbox and you're trying to figure out how to make shapes, how to build certain things. As an entrepreneur, you are just that. So the failures are really just sometimes your first attempt in learning. If you watch my TEDx talk, I talk about that as well, that fails in the first attempt in learning. And I think that was my first win, that I really failed and learned actually so much from it that I just kept going. It was like a propeller. It just kept like spinning in my head. All right, that wasn't it, but I gained the clarity to know what I really want to do.
So I'm kind of curious too. So you do the professorship and you do marketing. Is there like overlap, or how does that look and how does that work for you?
Definitely overlap, because you see students in your class that are going to be the future entrepreneurs, and we have a lot of funding at the university. So in my class already, I have industry sponsors that actually look at the elevator pitches that my students create. They give them money and say, here's seed funding. Let's get this party started. Fail really hard while you are a student, because you don't want to fail when you are out in the real world. That's somebody else's money, right? And then I might see the same issues appearing a few years later in clients that I work with. Like the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome. The problems are usually the same. So there's definitely an overlap there, but I like to teach them early and really prime them young to start their companies.
So does that mean you are pretty heavily involved in like internship type stuff? Like, so you have the connections and you know the people. Do you hands-on do internships with your students to kind of get them to make those failures right away?
Yeah, I definitely have some students that work for me and help me in my own business as well.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Hands-on is the best way to do it. I originally started in a totally different profession, but my internship helped me shift gears quickly, which I'm glad I did. So with the TED Talks and the experience and the professorship, what would you consider your best habit to be?
I like writing books, right? So by now I've written 4 books, and I would encourage everybody out there, just every day, sit down and write something. I mean, of course, ideally, like write thank you cards or write, Valentine's cards, or Mother's Day is coming up or whatever, right? So actually writing something by hand, whether that's in your planner, whether that's on a to-do list, whether that's on a whiteboard, it's just so good for the brain. And I think when I started doing that, that really was one of the biggest wins in my life, because all of a sudden I felt there is a collection point for my thoughts, and I can organize them in a way that others learn from them. So while it's great to stand there as a professor and click through slides, it's just like not really. I mean, it's gorgeous while you're there and you're enjoying it, but really to flip through a book, and I make my students buy like the physical paper book that has worksheets in there. So you have to get out the pencil and write in the book on the worksheets. That is when the real magic happened. And I think that was a complete turning point in my career.
So when you do the books, and there's some folks I'm sure listening right now that are inspired by the idea of writing books, what was your goal? Like, what you were trying to get more people on board? Were you trying to, get more clients? Like, what were you trying to get and gain with those books? a quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing and referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
I feel like there's a lost art in reading and there's a lost art in writing. And that was part of it, that I wanted to bring that back to this generation that doesn't really consider reading anything different than just scrolling through social media. That's one. But the second thing is also that I feel when you sit down and write, how it allows you to learn something about
Yeah.
yourself because you're putting your thoughts to paper. It's completely different than typing.
Okay, that's amazing. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the Petite. I'm assuming that's probably one of your favorite strategies and one of the techniques you'd like to talk to us about. So talk to us about where that came from and what it means.
Yeah. So petite practice is truly a small step that you're taking to reach a big goal. So I
Yeah.
love making big goals, right? It could be like, oh, I'm going to start this company and I'm going to sell these items or I'm going to service these certain areas right here. Amazing. So how do we get there? And at first it seems like, well, I have no clue because there's so much I need to do. Well, let's write it all down. And again, the writing part. And you can even like create like a little flow chart. First, I get started here, then I get started there. And maybe initially it's just a small, like a petite little way of selling a product or a service. And then you're expanding it from there, maybe at a farmer's market. And then you're going to one local store, maybe expanding to like a local chain. And then from there, maybe like going into like a regional chain, etc. So you need to think a little bit that the petite practice, when taken consistently, will bring you closer to your big goal than just sitting down and trying to crank it all out at once, right? Because you are consistent, you are very intentional, but at the same time, if you do fail, which might happen, it's okay because it was just a small step. So you're not falling all the way back to the beginning, like in those games, like Chutes and Ladders, where there's like one thing you land on, and you're like, oh my gosh, it was
That's
a
right.
bad one, right? It's
Yeah.
not that one. You're actually just moving up. Each little drop, each little step is moving you closer to your goal.
So when you teach this, you have to be constantly reflecting on what you're doing and where you're going. How often are they reflecting at each step, or like how often are we stopping and thinking about what we're doing and if it's getting us to our goal?
Yeah, so the intention really is that you just choose that. It could be every Sunday that you think what happened
Okay.
in the past week,
Got it.
examine the past wins, and then do more of those. So you really have to learn from the past and then think, how can I apply that to my future? That's really what petite practice is all about. It's not just going forward, but it's pausing and then using the past experiences and apply them to the future.
That makes sense. All right, so that is brilliant. That's exactly the way I run my business too. It couldn't be more aligned. I appreciate that idea. So I'm going to leave the next concept a little more open-ended to kind of see where you go with it, right? So we have our petite, we grow our business slowly. What role does video marketing have to play in this process?
For me, it's all about authenticity, right? So
Okay.
it's one thing to write a book and people imagining what the author might look like. But especially if you don't write about yourself, like a memoir, people will actually not know. So my books are, marketing, sales, entrepreneurship. I wrote a planner. So they're like, who is Dr. Christiana? They really don't know actually, right? So you have to get out there and maybe even show people, first of all, who you are, the face
Yeah.
behind the pen,
Yep.
so to speak, but then even maybe how to apply it, right? So don't just like put the book out there into like, the nothingness, but say, all right, so I'm using this book here today. And here are my students or here are my clients, and they're actually applying this knowledge from this particular worksheet to their business right now. How cool is that, right? So you never want to feel, oh, your book is just going to be like the elf on the shelf. It's just hanging out there, right?
Yeah.
You want to be the cool kid that actually gets opened, worked with, and applied to your day-to-day life. That's the petite practice. Daily little incremental steps to get closer to your goal.
I think this will flow nicely into people who are afraid to be on video as well. Am I right? The petite steps. Talk to us about how you can apply this to people that are kind of scared to be on video.
I have a brilliant story for you people. 3 years ago,
Good.
3 years
Awesome.
ago, I started my podcast. So 3/23/23 is when I started my podcast. So we are celebrating
Nice.
3-year birthday. So I took a look back at the first episodes, and boy, are those scrappy. My first episode of my podcast, which is now ranked top 1% globally, were Instagram Lives. That's how I recorded my podcast,
Oh,
Instagram
man.
Lives. So you can see the comments from the people that were on Instagram. It's like, hey, Christiane. It's like, that's how I started my podcast. And that's how I started my video marketing. I just put myself out there. I was like, social media, I know how to do that, right? And I just recorded it and put it out there. So if I can do that, Instagram Lives became a top 1% podcast. You can do that too.
So were your first ones like full, like 15, 20-minute ones, or did you just like start like, hey, I'm going to do a minute, I'm going to do 3 minutes, I'm going to do 5 minutes, or
No,
how
they
did that
were
look for you?
definitely longer because
Longer. Okay.
I had great conversations with people. And then keep in mind,
Got it.
23, there was also the pandemic. So people
Yeah.
enjoyed the interaction.
Yeah.
But it was very scrappy because you can kind of like see both of our heads on the cell phone recording.
That's awesome.
And then I became more comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Actually, episode 1, 2, and 3, I did not do video recording. And then I started with 4. I used those Instagram Lives. And then I moved into the Instagram Lives. And then I was like, well, hold on. I can also record on Zoom, Loom. I can even record, on podcasting platforms. So that it became a little bit better. But I would say at the beginning, it was very much what I know to show up on social media. So let's just record this and then publish it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And that Petite flash, and you can get anybody to do video with that Petite strategy. You don't have to always jump on there. That idea is just brilliant. And branding. I'm sure you talk to your students about branding and how important it is to identify your audience. When they get started, how do they decide what their brand is going to be? How do you teach them to decide their brand?
The brand has to be you. That's the main thing. It cannot be to where I would take their slide deck that we actually build a whole what I call brand board, right? Which is colors, fonts, logos, taglines. If I were to take the brand board from one student and like throw it up in the air and it would land and another student would pick it up, it would be like a puzzle or a lock and a key. It would match. The brand has to be completely you. So just like my brand is called Dr. Christiane because, hey, that's my name. But then it's also Petite Practice because it's really important to me. And that's how I lead my life. It wouldn't work for Billy, right? That's just not working. And so your brand has to be so uniquely you that when people hear the brand, they think of you and they maybe even see you because they've seen you on video now. So it's all like lock, all like connecting together. And it's not like this, let me explain my brand to you. It's immediately like, oh, I get it. Yes.
Talk to us more about the brand board. That caught my attention. So that is something interesting. What's that practice look like? What are they putting on these brand boards? Are they images? What do those things look like?
Students love the brand board.
Yeah,
so in all my classes and with my clients, I love using design and I use Canva for my design.
Okay.
And so they basically create a brand board that has usually 2 or 3 fonts. They have to really identify them. 2 or 3 colors. If they want like one more, that's fine, like a background color or something. So they basically on one sheet of paper lay out exactly what the fonts are, what the colors are. And then I have on the bottom, I have like mood boards. So some images that are associated with your brand. Like when I hear your brand, I think of, I don't know what, right? So like, for instance, calm, candles, sand, beach, or something, if it's like a yoga type inspired brand or something. So they have to put it all on one sheet of paper. So if they have to show it to somebody, that person has to immediately know, all right, a product that follows this brand board will be A or B or C, right? So that's what we really do. We really immediately start thinking about consumer psychology.
I think I have to put my brand through a brand board now. I think that you inspired me. I think I need to do this because
one of my favorites.
That is such a cool idea.
In my books. It's in my books.
Okay.
You have even templates that with my books, you get like a QR code and you can scan the QR code and it gives you a template for a brand board so that it's a Petite step You don't have to start from scratch, but you can start using a template and just make it your own.
All right, that's awesome. We're going to do a book exchange. I always love to do book exchanges with my
Let's do
guests. I'd love
it.
to do a book exchange. Yes. All
Book
right, we're moving
exchange
on to the
with
next
Billy.
one.
I like that.
Yes, book exchange with
Billy's
Billy.
book exchange.
I'm like
That's a good
three.
one.
I'm 3 behind, but I'm catching up fast. I'm getting
You
there.
you will be fine.
You'll be fine. Speed read. Get moving, buddy. Get moving.
Yeah, I got this.
So a lot of their strategies, and a lot of the things you're doing are very old school. I would say the paper, writing
Yep.
things out, doing things. But I'm sure you're also with it as far as technology. What
Mhm.
are some of your favorite AI strategies at the
Mhm.
moment, if any?
So in my classroom, because students create products, I
Mhm.
very heavily use mock-ups, and they can
Okay.
create them in ChatGPT, the mock-ups. I personally really like to create them in Canva. So let's just
Mm.
say you
Yep.
have an idea for the next best protein shake, and the word gets out there by merchandise, right? So maybe you make
Yep.
t-shirts, you make tote bags, you make these cool hats, you have these pencils. And instead of just like ordering stuff and then looking at it, we create mock-ups with AI to where basically you
That's
can
cool.
see how would that actually look like if somebody were to wear
Yeah.
a tote bag with my brand on it. And so we use AI, we create mock-ups. Should it be a can? Should it be a bottle? And we play around with it. How is the wording? Should it be vertical? Should it be horizontal?
Mm.
And so really getting AI to do the work for you before you actually pay a designer or even a packaging company to create something that will be very expensive then to scale. That's really what we do. And I think it's so important to see your brand as well on AI, even if it's just
Yeah.
on the screen, because that's really the beauty of it, that all of a sudden you feel like it's coming to life and it gives you this motivation as well.
I'm starting to see, and see if you agree with me. I'm starting to see a pushback with AI created descriptions and content and imagery where people will say, "Oh, you didn't make that," and just swipe right by and completely ignore it. Are you seeing that same types of trends with some of your students and some of the feedback you're getting from them?
I do, and there are still some students that don't even want to use AI. It's kind of like two
Got it.
camps. Sometimes they feel like, "Oh, am I cheating right now?" And I'm like, "No, I want that you do this right now because there's no way we can do a mock-up in person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
can't physically can do it." So I think the pushback for me comes when they start working on their own images and they start like
Mm.
modifying their own appearance. I don't like that because I'm like, You are your brand. Don't modify your own appearance. It's not necessary.
Got
Just
it.
be proud of who you are. Have that confidence. You don't need to modify anything about you because when we meet you and you look completely different, it's going to be really
Yeah.
bad. So don't do that. It's sometimes,
That's nice.
when you meet like real estate people or something, you're like, I look
Yes.
like nothing on paper.
No. The glamour shots or the big
Yeah,
poofy
the
hair.
glamour
Yeah.
is
No, I
like,
get you.
what is
Yeah.
this? So I tell my
Yeah.
students, this is where AI stops. It stops at the
Yeah.
human modification. We don't need to do that, right? Product design, cool, that makes sense because we're saving money. But with yourself, you don't need to do that. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. All right. So you deal with students and you deal with clients and you do a lot of these folks that are, getting into brands and working on things. Do you ever have to have that discussion with them about confidence, about um, uh, the fact that they don't think they're good enough and things like that? And how do you address that? And how do you have those discussions with them?
Get it all the time. Let's say we come back to that protein shake they want to create, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're realizing because I have them go to stores, right? Local stores and do what I call a shelfie, which is a
Yep.
selfie in front of a shelf.
I got it. I got it.
It's a
That's good.
shelfie. So they take the shelfie and then they come back and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many protein shakes out there. And I'm like,
so many.
did
So
you really
many.
think that you would be the first one?
Yeah.
Yay! Of course, there's tons of them. And then I tell them this can be very frustrating in marketing, where all of a sudden you realize that even the specific ingredients that you thought would be unique, somebody else already did that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. So what are we going to do about it? And they're like, well, maybe I'll just do it this way. And it's like, that's it? You just give up like that? I mean, that's lame. Nobody else does that, right? You just have to make a tiny little tweak, or maybe think about a different ideal client avatar that doesn't have this product in their hands yet, and you already have a different market. So I always think that the students get discouraged as soon as they see something that seems to
Yeah.
overlap with their idea, and they think, well, it's been there, it's done that. At this point, I just don't even know what to do. And they give up very fast at the beginning. And then that's why I have them go to stores and to shelves, because otherwise they are keeping believing that it is
Yeah.
unique. And then they eventually get really disappointed. So have them go to the store really early on. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there were that many protein
So
shakes
many.
out there. Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's such a big audience too, right? Like just because there's 20 brands, I mean, there's how many people can you now get a hold of because of the internet and online sales and so forth? There's so much product. Do you ever? I mean, at the levels the students you have are like pretty like advanced, or are you doing like supply and demand, and are you doing those kinds of things with them as well? Like where are you at as
No,
far
I
as
really
like their
push them.
advanced level?
I really
Yeah,
push
so you have
them.
higher advanced, so
Yeah,
they're
I
higher
mean,
end.
to me, the closer I can, and actually, I have companies that get launched from them as well with successful
Cool.
products and get funding and compete at national contests and actually really get investors to go for it. So that's the end goal ultimately. But I think that they have to really understand the basics. Supply and demand is always
Yeah.
there, but at the end of the day, you have to get into the mind of the consumer, which is why we do the brand board, which is why we go to stores, which is why I require them to do interviews, because you can sit there all day long in the classroom and talk about what could be happening, but
Yeah.
without actually connecting with the consumers. It's just like all like fluff and mirrors, but you actually have to get down and talk to the consumers in person, in the
Mhm.
store, and really have to look at it. That's the magic formula to everything.
That's amazing. All right. So I'm sure we can I could ask 30, 40 more questions, but I think we're out of time here today. So before we get to your business, we'll have you talk of us about where people can find you, get more information. If you're ready to, I mean, she is literally a teacher. She's going to teach you about your marketing strategies. It is worth the time and the energy to follow her. You break it down so basic and so easy that everybody can understand it. And we appreciate the small step by step and how practical you are. So when people want to follow you and get more information, where do they go, and where can they set up times to, meet up with you?
Well, go to my website,
Okay.
drchristiana.com. That's written out, Dr. Christiana. And then that will also lead you to my YouTube channel where I have videos. You can
Lots of good
watch the
stuff.
videos. There's some really short clips about sales, marketing strategies, etc. Then also, of course, the longer form videos on my podcast. And that's another step where you can find me. My podcast is called Happy Healthy Hustle. And everywhere where you can find podcasts is where you can find the audio, but then the video, of course, on YouTube. Or go to Amazon, type in my first and last name, that's Dr. Christiane Schroeter, and check out any of my books. And I'm actually currently working on my books will have access to a community as well, to where you can
Oh, cool.
really showcase your skills. We have little contests in those communities and really
Oh, that's
elevate the
awesome.
marketing game to apply it even more.
That's great. I can't wait to the book exchange now. I'm so excited
Yes,
about it.
let's do it.
Ma'am, we appreciate your time and your help and your knowledge today. If you haven't checked out her TEDx talk, make sure you do that too. I just simply put in her name and put in TEDx and it popped right up. So be sure you do that. Check out her
Easy.
information. Her videos are amazing and they're, like I said, very digestible and easy to consume. So we appreciate you have done for us today, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals.